What's up, Grassroots World? I'm Chris Logan.
I'm Ernie Barber.
And we are the Flagrant 2. Today we're joined by former OK Prep star, Oklahoma Sooner basketball player for 2 seasons at OU, current 17U coach of Team Griffin on the EYBL, one of the better skill development trainers in the United States of America, also trains guys like Buddy Hield and some other NBA players currently. The one and only Trey Slate. What's up, my dude?
Hey, man. Excited to be here. Appreciate the intro.
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah, man. That's just a long list of things.
We definitely want to build you guys up, man. You deserve it, bro.
Nah, man.
Glad to have you, man.
I'm excited to be here. Appreciate you guys.
One of the best basketball minds.
For sure.
But for sure, man. Yeah, you're one of the best basketball minds I talk to sometimes. Yep. So you know a lot. You're very well versed in all levels and all aspects of it. So we definitely wanted to have you on here and chop it up with you and just kind of, talk about how you got into this and then talk about what you're doing currently and your skill development stuff as far as training the youngsters and maybe what you're doing on training some of these professional guys and even college level guys and just kind of find out, what it is you're up to right now. And that's what we love to do is teach the guy, everybody in Oklahoma and really everybody in the region, just teach them about guys that if they don't know about them, we want to put them on game to guys that really know the game.
Yeah, I would say this too. Also, obviously, your training business that you run, give you a chance to talk about that too, because it's a shout out for your players and the guys, and also an opportunity for you to get more guys in your system there. So, just want to kind of go through, talk a little bit about Trey and how you got into basketball, brother. Talk to me about where it all began.
Yeah, man. It all began for me, small town, Gore, Oklahoma. Fell in love with the game really my 8th grade year. It happened an interesting way. I was actually cut from my 8th grade team.
A Jordan story. Jordan story here.
Hey, I don't know about Jordan, man. I don't know if I should be in the same breath as
Gore,
that.
Oklahoma was loaded at that time, apparently.
Apparently, no. Man, I honestly, I really wasn't very good. I got cut from that team, had to play down with the 7th graders.
Yeah.
And that's what really kind of developed my work ethic. I didn't like that taste in my mouth about having to play down. Was it with my friends? I was with a younger group. And I'm like, man, I don't like this. So, I just started working hard at it. Just kind of fell in love with it. And it kind of happened organically, man. Started working really hard and started seeing some results. I'm like, hey, man, if I work hard, I do get results. And just kept doing that. Fell in love with the game. It ended up turning out for me all right there. I had a solid career at Gore. But yeah, man, just fell in love with it.
It's always interesting how you get into it, how you start, because I think everybody's got a different story, right? And it's always when somebody loves the game as much as you do, it's your life. It's always cool to understand where it all started.
Yeah.
Because generally there's always a story about where you failed or where there was an issue and you had to take a step back. Mm-hmm. And then that's when you really realize, do I love it or not? And sometimes kids don't ever have that until they get later on. But when you have that early on, it's like you build perspective, character. It makes you realize how hard you have to work. Mm-hmm. And I think there's an appreciation that comes along with that. I think a lot of kids miss that sometimes.
Yeah, no doubt, man. That adversity has always been something that I'm grateful for. Like with that, I think that was the starting point to a lot of things that kind of snowballed in my career, is being able to handle that adversity, work hard through it. Man, that stuff you can't really get enough of, man.
Now
you learn to embrace it.
This guy's an author too. I wanted to bring that into this. This guy's written a book too. So come on,
brilliant basketball mind. Hey, it may sound like you're bragging, but you got it. It is what it is, and we think that you're someone that's well respected, and definitely we want your opinions on things, and that's what we really do on this podcast. Is we want this to be a real basketball place where people can come and talk about the game, and it may be for purists to listen to this because that's who's really going to love this. But that's what me and Ernie are. Yep. So that's right in our wheelhouse. So now take me back to Gore. Do they have like a statue of you out there?
No, that's really not, man.
Are you the all-time leading scorer?
No, man. I did have a solid career there. Not the all-time leading scorer. I don't even know how many points I scored in my career. I don't even know if we kept track of that, man.
Back in those days, you got a pat on the back. And said,
yeah,
good job,
really
good
though.
job, buddy.
Really though, man.
You fist pound. Maybe not a fist pound. You shook hands.
So now,
back
did you have some? You ultimately walked on at Oklahoma,
Yeah,
right? Did you
yeah.
have some smaller stuff before that you just it didn't work out, or no?
Yeah, so that's a good question, man. Coming out of high school, I had a solid career at Gore.
Yeah.
I didn't have any scholarship offers anywhere in the country.
Yeah.
There was NSU actually contacted me about a preferred walk-on.
Yep.
But at that point, my dream was always to play at OU.
Yeah.
That's always been the dream.
So
That
cool.
was just like
Didn't
I felt like-
sacrifice the dream.
No,
man.
I felt like it was embedded in me, and that's a hard thing to explain. Maybe hard for some people to understand.
No.
But something that was just I feel like glued into me. And so, once my high school career ended, I got in contact with Teddy Owens. Shout out Teddy Owens, man.
Yeah.
Holland Hall.
Holland Hall's finest.
I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to be anywhere where I am today without him and him taking my calls. And honestly, I would call him 6-7 times a day until
Yeah.
he would answer. Just trying to get my foot in the door, try to walk on, get a workout.
Yeah, great dude.
Yeah, and they kind of OU, I think at the time was like, kind of sick of hearing this dude. We're just gonna kind of let him be a manager for a year, or let him come on as manager. But I took that as opportunity to learn, to work hard, to get to know the coaches, the players, and show them that I was an extremely hard worker. Whether that was just me wiping up sweat, filling Gatorade, folding a towel, and I was gonna do
Whatever
that,
it takes.
whatever
Yeah.
it takes, man. I was gonna do that to the best of my ability, show my character, and hopefully them get to see my work ethic and how I carry myself, and that could be an asset to the team.
That's a
and
great example.
ended up working out.
Yeah.
man.
That's something that everybody that listens to our show needs to understand and play that back. What he just said. That, all those things. Work hard, do whatever it takes. Those things are critical foundations, not just for basketball, but for life.
No.
To be
100%.
successful.
I mean, you got to respect someone that knew what they wanted their whole life. As
That's
far as
cool.
like, my dream is to play at Oklahoma, and I'm gonna do whatever it takes. Doesn't matter, and I mean, there's a lot to be said for that for anybody that does that. That we all have something that we in our lives take different turns here and there, but it's people that stick to their guns and like, I'm gonna do this, and then they do it. It's even that much more fulfilling. So I can imagine, putting that jersey on and running out of that tunnel, when that's all you dreamed about, just being a little guy.
Talk about that.
Yeah, man. It was like being able to first seeing my name above a locker there was surreal, man. Just because, especially that time as manager, like it can sound like something easy, but when you're that close to achieving your dream, but then you're sitting 3 feet behind the bench, or you're wiping up their sweat, you're doing their laundry. I have their dirty drawers in my hand. I'm doing that stuff.
Yeah,
And,
whatever you got to do.
Man, it was so challenging. I almost quit so many times. But like there's always been a Bible verse that's stuck with me ever since I read it. It's, if God is for us, what can stand against us? Yeah. And like I said, I felt like that dream was embedded in me. I feel like it was something God put there in my heart, and that it was like I needed to pursue it with everything, and I just kind of had faith in that. But man, it was never easy, super difficult. But seeing my name above the locker, it made me appreciate all those little things that I think I may overlooked if I just got it easy,
Yeah.
Being able to run down the tunnel, put on the jersey, hear the fight song, just be on the court in the Lloyd Noble, seeing everything around me. It made me appreciate everything then, and I've really tried to take that perspective with me now, just enjoy the journey where I'm at now.
Yeah.
So while you're at Oklahoma, you obviously meet Buddy Hield, right?
Yeah.
Correct. That he's your teammate. But at what point do you realize like skill development is going to be my thing, or I'm good at this, or at what part do you realize that?
Man, it happened organically. I was just a really curious person. Still am. I was really just on YouTube, researching things, talking to different people, different mentors, a strength coach, trying to figure out ways to make my workouts as good as I can. Because I was a walk-on the team, but I was trying to earn a scholarship. I was trying to play. I've always been hungry, ambitious, just trying to be the best I can be. I just kept accumulating knowledge because I was trying to make what I do the best it could be.
Yep.
And guys started noticing he's when he's in there working out, he actually has a purpose to things and kind of knows what he's doing. And so Buddy Hield and guys like Isaiah Cousins and Ryan Spangler and Jordan Wood, a lot of those guys started coming in and working out with me. But hey, we come and like work out with you and do some things together? And I'm like, yeah, I guess just like don't slow me down. I'm still trying to work.
Yeah,
sure.
Y'all are on scholarship. I'm trying to get a scholarship.
Get one of those.
I'm watching y'all play. Like I'm trying to get out there with them. But no, man, it just kind of happened organically, and then it turned into one day me working them out, and I'm like, man, like this is fun. Like I love this.
See yourself doing that
in
the future.
It just like I said, man, it happened organically just from working extremely hard, being curious, trying to be the best I can be, and accumulating a lot of knowledge and resources, and then just kind of ended up just sharing it.
And then obviously in Buddy's case, it gets to be like the 2016 draft, and he's had a great senior year. They got him to stay. He did well. Yeah. You're working him out in these pre-draft workouts, correct?
Yeah.
And it just you see it and know probably how good he is, even more than maybe some do. So talk us through kind of like how that process went and just kind of how that whole thing unfolded.
Yeah, no. That was a really neat experience, man. Doing like his pre-draft workouts, and then especially his NBA day, basically. He's like his pro day.
Yeah.
Which was, I mean, at the time I was still at Mackey. I still had a year left at Mackey.
Yep.
And I'm in there doing his pro day, and there's like every GM, 30 GMs in the gym.
Yeah.
Like 10 head coaches. I go in the bathroom before I'm freaking out, man. I'm like, am I qualified for this? I've been really curious. I've learned a lot. But
was the workout in Norman?
No, it was in L.A. It was in a gym in L.A. at Pro Day, and so
like, how did I get in here?
So
how did I get in here?
I literally, man, I'm like, am I
just go down the list
qualified
of people
for
that
this?
you know? You're like, wow.
But no, it went well, man. I tell people this all the time. Buddy was going to be great with or without me, just because his hunger, and his curiosity, and his desire, man, and the way he worked with enthusiasm, and the person he is. So, man, I saw glimpses of how good he could be, and his work ethic. I always knew that he'd be a person that could sustain in the league.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's always going to be great with or without me, man.
I mean, I'm pretty sure if he's sitting in here, he would probably say, this guy helped me a lot. So, I mean, I think,
you get pushed.
I think definitely that
takes a village, man.
Yeah, no, it 100% takes a village, man. Nobody gets anywhere special by themselves.
Absolutely. It's all hard work and determination, and then, okay, so take us, you're now graduated from Mackey, correct?
Yep.
At this point,
Yep.
Where do you go from there? Is that where the Buddy Buckets program is formed, or what? Do you have something before that? Take us through what happens after you're done with college.
Yeah, after I'm done with college, I go full into training. It was pretty risky because there's nothing for certain there.
Yeah.
It was basically just like I have to hustle and hope this works out, and believe that if I'm doing something I love, that it's going to end up working out. And I've always been a big believer that if I put my heart and soul into something, that it's going to work.
Yeah.
I'm always very determined. So it's kind of how I approached it. Training business eventually took off. The Buddy Buckets formed, I think, about a year after I graduated. That was really Daniel Harper, Gary Hopper.
The Harpers,
the Harpers. They kind of got that going, and I eventually kind of joined in on that a little bit.
Okay.
So were you guys at OU at the same time? You guys
Me
teammates?
and Daniel. Yeah. You were teammates, man. That's been one of my best friends for a long time.
Yeah.
We actually the first
Shout
time
out
we
to
met.
D-Harp.
Yeah, big shout out D-Harp. The first time we met, we were both fighting for the one walk-on spot at OU, and I saw him, and I'm
Nick's
like,
best friend.
Yeah, and there was kind of a little tension from me anyway. But no, man, that's my guy.
That's funny. It's ironic how, and I've got stories similar to that, to guys that I played with in college that I ended up not liking when I got there, and they hated me.
Yeah.
And then they became my best friends and my wedding.
That's
and all
how
kinds
it
of
works.
Yeah, competition will do that.
brings out the best in you, man.
Yeah, and he's
Literally.
doing well at Southmore, working his way up. He's assistant coach for them.
He's a great dude.
He does a great job.
Ton of young talent over there too. So he's got some things to work with. Okay, so you're with the Buddy Buckets program, and are you training guys like Padula? I mean, you're obviously helping him in his process, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was one of my first little proteges, man. Sean. I actually saw him on a video of him on Twitter. I think his brother posted it when he was in like 6th grade. And I was like, who is this kid? I DM'd his brother, who is this kid?
Yeah.
He's like, it's my brother. I'm like, dude, like, I have to have him in the gym with me. Like I know there's a bunch of things.
I
Yeah.
just sat behind him
We
at
could-
the Guinness weekend.
Yeah, we could improve on, we
Yeah.
could work, we could build on. But yeah, man, that was my first little protege. He's been a killer from the beginning.
I was going
man.
to say, how early on did you think this kid is a high major
Man.
stud? Like, he's going to end up being a stud.
Probably when he was a freshman. I had him in a group workout with some of the other better high school players in the area. I'm not going to name any names, but we went through some skill work, and at the end I was kind of like, should I have them play? Like, I don't know how Sean's going to do. Like,
Yeah.
he might get his lunch ate. I was like, like he's here. Like let me throw him to the
Yeah.
wolves a little bit, see
Yeah.
what happens. So we start going live, and he just starts killing them. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, wow, this kid's got like a different gear. He's got a different competitive switch when
Yeah.
it gets time to compete. There's something else, a different gear that he gets into. And not everybody has that. Not everybody understands that. And him, like, he has the ability to do it not just once, but day in and day out. And that's I don't think people
Consistency.
understand how hard that is to do, to find that competitiveness and play with that type of emotion day in, day out.
And he got and he really got, started getting his flowers when he went down there. What did they play? Pro Skills or
Yeah,
something? Was it
yeah.
Pro Skills that they
Yeah, when
played?
EYBL, it was during COVID.
was
I
one
think
of
it was
those-
Southern Assault,
Was it one of
actually.
those
Southern
games?
Assault.
I didn't
I think
know
it was
what
Southern Assault.
But I know he went out there and just killed it.
Yes.
And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden,
That was
we started seeing the name
that,
everywhere.
I mean, that blew up. It went viral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he had such a great game against one of the top guards in the country,
yeah.
and I mean, just went off, and it showed his explosiveness. I mean, he was on fire, and then everything just took off from there. It was
Yeah.
pretty cool. I remember
Yeah.
hearing about it, and everybody was talking about it. I never forget that. And people were sending me messages, text messages. You need to check this out. You need to check this out. Have you heard about him? Have you heard about this kid? And I was like, oh no, I've heard the name a couple times. Where does he go to school? He goes to Edmond. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and he picked a great school, and it looks like it was a great fit. And Virginia
Yeah,
Tech,
man.
he right now is he's a stud. He's playing,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
playing his butt off right now. So okay, so you go, but you're with Buddy Buckets for a few years. And then comes the opportunity for basically the programs merge together, or Team Griffin takes this on, and you become a part of Team Griffin. So just take us through how that was and what your thoughts were when that all went down.
Yeah, the Buddy Bucket stuff was great. Gary Harper did a great job. The organization built it from the ground up, made it a really competitive. One of the best. It was one of the best programs in Oklahoma, probably a top 3 program in Oklahoma.
Absolutely.
when they were going, and they could compete with a lot of shoe teams. But when the opportunity came for Griffin, man, I was extremely excited about it. Just really, like from a personal standpoint, I was trying to figure out, where I'm at in my coaching journey, and if his coaching and training completely different, man.
Absolutely.
Completely different.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out, is this something that I kind of want to pursue more?
Yeah.
Is this something I want to do? There's no better way to find it out than going against some of the best, competing against some of the best. It helps you figure out what you have within you. And so, like, man, I was super excited about that challenge, and that's always what I told people, man. I'm super excited about the challenge to compete at that level and figure it out.
And you were able to bring a lot of your kids
Yeah.
from your Buddy Buckets team over to the EYBL. So you knew these kids in and out and what they were good at. And although it was, a higher level and playing against, the best of the best really in the country, did you know, you're like, I know these guys are going to be able to hang with these guys. Obviously, they're good, but you're like, hey, this is a new level. And you obviously knew some of those dudes were going to be able to do it. And then the success that you obviously had with that team, was that something that you saw right away? Or you're like, might take me a couple seasons before I can get that?
Man, you're always hopeful. At the same time, I had a ton of faith in them and all the guys I brought over. Man, like, there was a lot of ups and downs in the season. I expected us to be a little better early. But, man, it ended up being a fun ride, kind of having those ups and downs, those bumps, and then finishing the way we did.
Yeah.
Man, I had a ton of faith with them, but at the same time, like, going into the EYBL, it's a different animal, man.
No, that's what I'm
different
saying.
animal.
Yeah,
So with that, I mean, obviously you knew some of the guys that you had on your squad.
Yeah.
Talk about some of those guys that who surprised you, who stood out. Who give some shout outs to some of your guys on your team.
Yeah, no. One CJ Nixon, man, he really stood out to me. He really impressed me a lot. At the beginning of the season, we were playing a lot different. We were a little bigger, and as the season went, we kind of lost some guys, and he kind of had to play the 5 a lot and guard a 5.
Show some versatility.
But he showed a lot of versatility, being able to guard a 5, but still showcase what he can do offensively. Playing on the perimeter and develop a lot of perimeter skills, and score in a bunch of different ways. And same thing, Caden Rayfield, man. Like those guys, kind of they had to play and guard out of position some.
Yeah.
But one, like they both did it really well. And the thing I love about it the most is probably that they never complained about it.
Yeah.
And like I know that was probably difficult for them at times, but man, they never complained about it. They killed it, and they ended up having a great peach jam, great end of the year, got some offers. And this year, fortunately, we were loaded with some size to help them kind of get more natural position.
So talk about just real quick in terms of your thoughts in coaching. What are some things that are like non-negotiables? Obviously, I know that. Talk about your style, what you like in terms of what's your style of coaching, what style of offense you like to run. Give a little hint of some of that. Obviously, I know rebounding's non-negotiable, playing D's non-negotiable. I get all those things, but talk about that makes you that some things that you're very adamant on your team as far as a signature and how you put a stamp on the program.
Yeah, no, I prefer to be skilled at every position and be able to shoot. I like to teach like truly positionless basketball for things to have a lot of flow. I don't want to be someone that calls a bunch of sets. Now in practice,
how many sets would you say you run?
Man,
total
at Peach Jam, man, I think we only ran like 2 sets a game.
Yeah,
and there was one set. It was just a Spain ball screen in the middle floor. It'll about the last 4 or 6. We would just kind of save it. Last 4 or 6 minutes.
Just
something
save
pull
it
out.
for the end of the game.
Like basically every possession, it's difficult to figure out. But man, like I say that I just don't roll the ball out there and let them play. Like we teach a lot of concepts. We teach them how to move without the ball.
Yeah, you don't even have to have sets. You don't have to have sets.
It's
just the concepts are there.
No,
you don't want them. You don't want them stopping in mid and looking over at you like, well, what do I got to run now? Which I see a lot of, and I'm like, sometimes you got to let them go. There's too much structure sometimes turns them into robots, and I see that so much. I'm
100%.
like, robotic basketball is hard to watch.
Well, it allows
the confidence away.
It allows
the
coaches to see how kids react in real time in certain situations, and which ones understand the game at a higher level, and which ones still need to learn.
Yeah,
I mean, they all need to learn even after, but that's one thing that I think a lot of what I had from a lot of coaches were they came back and said, hey, look, we only had probably what we'd run in practice 6 to 8 sets, but in games we probably only ran 3 to 4 sets, maybe a game, maybe.
Yeah.
And those were the ones that I felt like the guys were really, clued in on and felt comfortable and confident running it, where we had some good level of opportunity to execute.
Yeah.
But you're right. I totally like the where you're running 5 out, you're running guys moving, ball movement, leaving the paint open. You've got opportunities to dribble drive or kick or whatever. But guys learning how to play that way in unison together is beautiful when it works.
Man. That flow that it can create and that connectivity. Once that ball gets moving, they trust each other. Is fun. It can be really fun, especially when you're making shots.
Well, exactly.
and everybody needs skill to be able to shoot.
And I think that one advantage you had was that you had these kids prior to, so they knew. A lot of times when you get on the circuit, it's like it could be a brand new team.
Yeah.
And you were able to take a lot of your guys. Your point guard who knew exactly what you like to do and where he needs to be, and then you're able to bring some of those guys. So that's an added advantage.
Oh, 100%.
And honestly, that team was predominantly Oklahoma kids. I mean, you definitely had a few guys, but for them to make it to the Final Four at Peach Jam is a feather in the cap to the kids of the state, and obviously to you guys and what you guys were doing with them. So, I mean, nothing but kudos to you guys for doing that. I think everybody was rooting you guys on. I don't care 100%. Who it was. You know?
I remember it. Everybody was talking about it on social media and everything. One of the things I wanted to come back to, because you said this earlier, and I want to come back to it. You said it's completely different from being a trainer to being a coach.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the differences, because I know I know you've lived this with coaches. You know, on social media, they'll get on a high horse and they'll start talking down trainers or whatnot. You know, about talk to me about, or the listeners, about the differences, the main differences you see in that. I mean, obviously some of them are obvious.
Yeah.
But you know, and then I think the second question. So there's two things. Talk about the differences, and then the next thing is, debunk some of the fallacies that people associate with trainers? Because I think it's very important for people to hear that.
Yeah. So one, like me as a trainer, when someone comes in, for the most part, like I'm trying to expand their skill set. I'm not necessarily, especially in a group setting, I'm not necessarily going through a specific game type actions. I'm more so trying to work on some of the qualities that are going to be really important in game, like changing speed, being able to decelerate, being able to change direction out of certain positions, how to keep defenders off balance, a ton of ball handling, obviously, a ton of footwork, being able to be balanced, under control, get to certain spots on the floor. I'm trying to expand your skill set and really give you a bunch of qualities that we'll be able to apply to a live game situation. And I mean, that's my philosophy on it, is that, you know, I want to help you develop those qualities, those skills, and then it's up to you to figure out how to use. It's up to you. You got to have curiosity to figure out when to use them, where to use them, how they apply to your game. How do I work on these on my own? I'm not going to come to you and make you great. I can come to you and show you the way. Yeah. I can point you in the right direction, but you can't come to me and expect me to make you a great player. That's not how things work. So I'm more of a pointer, you know, trying to teach them different things, develop their skill set, and it's up to them to be curious and figure out how it applies to the game and how it applies to their team concepts that happen and flow, you know? How can the skills I have be incorporated in a game where I have teammates and I got to be able to attack out of an offense that has to have flow, rhythm. So, man, it requires a lot of curiosity from them, and that's what I try to teach them.
Yeah, no, I learned it firsthand because I sent my son to you, Trey, and I got back a nice quality product out of that and was able to, and honestly, that's what started our program. Yeah. And it wasn't what started it, but it allowed us to, his skill set allowed us to immediately be effective. Now, of course, we had other players too. I mean, we had some really good players and smart players. I mean, we had 4.0 on one of our teams. I mean, when Evan was a 17U kid, we had a 4.0, maybe 4.5 if you did the real GPA or 5-point scale or whatever. But I mean, but having him and the skills that he learned working with you allowed him to apply that, and it was fun as a father to get to experience that. And I owe you and D-Harp, another shout out to D-Harp, a tremendous amount, because I remember when we took our son to Trey for the first time, and Trey, you were early on in your training process then. I don't know where in the story you just described, but it was somewhere in there. I'm guessing it was probably about 2017, 2018 maybe. And I was, because he had trained a couple kids, but he didn't have a bunch of kids at that time, if my memory is correct. Yeah. And I was nervous that he wasn't going to accept Evan to train him, because I thought, man, I don't know if he's good enough, right? Yeah. You know, I hear of some of the people that, and Trey comes up afterwards and he's like, yeah, I'll take him. And I thought, oh, hallelujah, we won the lottery, right? Like, you know, but no, it was fantastic, and he enjoyed it, and still to this day, when I told him you were going to be on tonight, he was like, oh, cool, and then now you're going to be going to the game to watch him, so. He'll be excited. I'm sure he'll ask me about it tonight or whatever.
And I'll piggyback on some of that. I mean, obviously now you're also training down in the DFW area, Oklahoma City. We ask this to coaches as well. So you see a lot of kids. What is some things that you notice that are holes in these kids' games that maybe you pick up in a pattern? Question. Like this is where kids need to work on more? You know,
Basketball in general.
Yeah, just in general.
Yeah.
It's a great question.
Man, I the first thing that pops in my head is watching basketball more, man. Because there's a lot of kids that have skills and tools and that move really well on the court and that have that freedom of movement, but I don't think they really understand how that skill set can apply, like I said, to a game that has to have flow and rhythm. Yeah. You coming down and ISOing and taking 9 dribbles to get to is not something that's like realistic and trying to slow everything down.
Not translating.
Yeah, it's not translating. And it doesn't translate to college. It doesn't translate to the level you're trying to go to. So I think, man, just watching more basketball, understanding how important moving away from the ball is, finding those open pockets for catch. Because at the end of the day, that's what everybody wants is a catch and shoot. It's great to have the tools, ability to create, get your own shot. But honestly, most of the time, you're using those tools. You're probably creating for others.
Yeah.
But man, just watching more basketball and trying to figure out how do the skills and tools that I have, how can they apply to a game that has to have flow and rhythm, where every time I catch a ball, I'm not disrupting the flow of everybody else. If you being great has to sacrifice anybody else being great, then that's not a good recipe, man. Like you got to be able to be great and be able to make others great and take them with you.
One of the crazy things, I mean, with this generation too, is what you just said, is watching basketball. It seems as if a lot of these kids, they play nonstop, but they don't watch the game. They don't watch it at any level. Like, I mean, and then, you know, every so often I
was obsessed watching basketball.
Oh, me too.
Younger,
I mean,
I still watch it.
I mean, any game, NBA games especially, I would watch it and watch it and watch it.
I had YouTube, I'd have burned it out, man. I would just been.
Yeah, it's like,
oh my God.
It's like, I mean, to me, if you're a talented player, watching much more talented guys than you really only is teaching you, you know, hey, then I go out and work on that, or I go to the gym and work on some of that stuff I saw. It's just a lot of guys now.
It's 100% what it comes back to, man, is that curiosity, man. That is 100% in it, man. Like, you have to be curious and not just watch the game, but ask the questions as you're watching. Okay, like, why did he move into this spot? Okay, like, they're guarding the screen like this, and this is where he was able to get to on the floor. Like, what is he seeing? What is he looking at? And how did he plant his foot? And I mean, there's so many little details and things that allow great players to be great.
Yeah.
Like, I say this a lot in my sessions, man. Like, greatness, like people that achieve greatness for sustained periods, like there's footprints they leave behind.
Yeah.
And if you're curious enough to look at those footprints, man, like, you can discover a lot, but you got to ask the right questions, and you got to be willing to look at those and try to find those footprints. Yeah. Because they're there. You just got to ask the right question.
No, I think film study in training is, you know, becoming even bigger and bigger wave. Yeah. And I truly believe that's, you know, if the kid is bought in and will really buy into that, and that's a whole nother way of just you know, putting another tool into your toolbox, you know, and then going out there and like you said, seeing, you know, this is how your feet look in this, but if you did this, or you angled your body here, this, all that stuff adds up, and ultimately it does translate to when you're in these games. So it's cool to see that there's some new stuff going on, but back to watching basketball, man. I don't know how many games I watch a year. I would probably say it's in the thousands. Yeah. And I every time I talk to a college coach, I notify them on some of these kids that I see in these gyms, because there's certain guys I see, they're all over. They if they're not playing, they're out watching games. And to me, that's what I would have been doing, and that's what I was doing when I was younger. And I got a lot of respect for students of the game, hoop junkies. I mean, really, you know, because there is kids out here that are really good, and they don't watch basketball. Yeah. If they're not in the game, and hey, more power to them if they can get by doing that. But I just think, how much better would they be if they watched more game situations and asked questions?
Yeah. How long do you get by?
Exactly.
How long do you
exactly.
get by?
So I just wanted to transition in. Now you're going to be coaching the 17U, correct, this season?
Yep.
And I think it's the first time they've had a different coach at 17 since. I know Kellen's done it forever, so I mean, I don't know if he's the first and only. I don't remember quite far back, but I mean, he's been doing it since I can remember.
Was Roby the coach before Kellen on the 17s?
I don't think so.
Robbie never did the 17s?
No, Kellen's been the head coach from what
I don't know then
remember.
who would be before Kellen.
So how are you? I mean, obviously you're excited to take that over, right?
Super
I mean,
excited, man.
Yeah,
so
that's pretty cool.
you want to talk about some of the guys that you can talk about that maybe have announced it, or you know for sure, and that you want to talk about some of those guys that you got coming back, or any new additions if they've announced.
Yeah, no, of course, man. I'm super excited that they're allowing me to coach 17s. You know, that we had some good success at the end of the year last year. The core is all coming back. C.J. Nixon, Caden Rayfield, Cal Furnish.
Yeah.
Those are the three kind of Oklahoma core guys coming back. And we got Jalen Dean Vines out of Texas, Dallas, Texas. He's coming back.
Stud kid.
So, man, super athletic, springy.
Yeah, you want to see somebody get dunked on. It's probably going to be him involved in that. You know, great kid.
Cortland Muldrew coming back. He only played that last tournament with the
Is he from? He's Arkansas.
He's
kid?
Arkansas, man. But he's a dog, man.
Yeah, and he's picked up some. He's got some D1 offers.
He's picked up some high major D1 offers.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's gonna be a lot more to come. And then we just got a big out of Texas. He announced.
Yes.
Parker Jefferson.
I did see that. So.
6'10" kid out of Waxahachie.
Wow, nice.
Man, I love his game.
Yep.
He's a high school Jokic, Sabonis, skilled, can pass, can shoot.
That gives you a lot of choices.
Gives me a lot of choices.
He holds a ton of high majors. He's got LSU, and I know the list is long. So I mean, so you're kind of excited about what you got.
Man, I'm super excited, man.
And I'm sure there's some secrets, some players coming that maybe you can't talk about right now.
You know, there's two more out of Texas. I don't want to steal their thunder. Steal their announcement. I got to let them get their likes and Instagram.
For sure, for sure.
We also got my guys Levi Kelly, Owen Eshelman. Them two are going to be coming back. Love those guys, man.
Yep.
Two just absolute great teammates, culture guys. Will do whatever it takes to win.
Yeah.
They can come in for 5 minutes, but they're going to come in, take a charge, affect the game in some way.
Shout out to Levi Kelly. Every time I see him, I tell him that. Like, just
Owen's a stud too.
They're both dogs.
Dude will do whatever. Yeah, both of
them.
Tell them whatever that you want them to do, they're going to do it. They don't care. Run through the wall, they're going to run through the wall.
And I would just say, I'll say this on camera, I would have loved to have had either one of those guys in my squad. Yeah. So, hey, shout out to the guys. They're good players. One of the things I wanted to ask too, and I didn't. You were done with that, right? Correct. I want to make sure. I want to give all the shout outs to the young man as possible, but I wanted to switch gears here, and I wanted to ask this question. Then I think what we'll do is we'll go into the shot clock portion of the show, I guess, if you will. What other sport does Trey Slate like outside of basketball, and why?
Football, because I don't really. I mean, like I know how it works.
Yeah.
But I don't know a ton to where I feel like I can enjoy it.
Got it.
Sometimes basketball can be like, it's hard for me to turn my brain off when I'm watching it. I'm always analyzing it. I can never really watch it for entertainment. I'm watching, okay, what set are they running? Why are they running this? Look at like,
why did he do that?
Why did he do that? Okay, like look at this spot he just got to on the floor, like how different things like so like so football, man.
The savant comes out.
I'm a big Eagles guy.
Oh!
Big Eagles guy, man.
Oh!
We finished.
Hey, this is a great show.
I'm a Cowboys guy.
I'm a Cowboys guy too. This guy. We got an Eagles on the other side of us here.
Yes.
This breaks my heart. This whole thing was like really cool.
It was going well.
And I was digging this thing, and then he hit me with the Eagles, and I'm just like, oh, you just
I
shot
have a very good friend that's an
shot
Eagles
me in the
fan, so
heart,
I'm very used to. And they could potentially play again in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
If things go a certain way this weekend.
I thought the Eagles were early in the season. I thought the Eagles were going to win the conference, and then of course my Cowboys pulled it out at the end.
Who did win the division?
No, man, we choked it off, man. We choked it off.
Yeah, you guys the second half of the season didn't play very good football.
No,
at the end of the year, I mean, it was you guys lost to the Giants by it was rough.
Hey, but we got the playoffs, man. We got the playoffs. It's a whole new season.
It's a whole new season.
Yeah, I tell you, I would still be
season.
scared if the Cowboys have to line up against them again.
So it's football.
Yeah.
I guess from there, let's just jump in. We'll ask shot clocks. Pull the shot clock up.
We'll just do a 30.
Yeah, there we go.
5-second timer, but we'll give you.
And these will be
just
quick. First thing that comes to mind.
All right.
And the last question is one we ask every guest on the show. Just tell me when you're ready, sir.
Ready,
All
go.
right, go. So most important skill as a basketball player?
Curiosity.
Very nice. Shot clock at all levels of basketball, yes or no?
100% yes.
Greatest college coach ever?
Lon Kruger, because he gave me a chance.
I love it. I love it.
Smart answer.
Best point guard ever?
Steph Curry.
This is the longest one. All-time starting five.
MJ, Kobe, Bron, Shaq. Oh, this first one's tough. KD.
Very nice. Very nice.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Last one.
Interesting on the KD
Very
line.
nice.
Yeah.
And last one, who's the GOAT?
MJ, but Kobe's my go. I got to say it like that.
No, you got to say Kobe.
Like MJ, but Kobe's my go. That's who I grew up watching,
Very good.
idolizing, man.
We were talking about we're waiting to get somebody other than Jordan because I told him we would get somebody
I'm
that says
obsessed with Kobe.
So I want to say this because we always ask it, and it's. I mean, if you're a basketball purist, this is a conversation. We could go on for a while for this, but I always ask that question, kind of just get people's feelings about generationally different, and obviously. His generation's a little bit different. Obviously, Kobe's a big part of that, and there's nothing wrong with saying Kobe Bryant. I mean, he had the template built for him. But what I do love about him, and it doesn't surprise me that you say that, is the things you described in curiosity and greatness and wanting to ask questions and wanting to just dive in. There's nobody in the history of basketball that was more curious than him.
No, 100%.
There's nobody. I mean, and Jordan just built. He had a way about himself. He was just different. Mm-hmm. But Kobe had a template built, and he took it and then tried to take it to a whole nother level, right? And it's not like it's easy to take a whole nother level, Jordan's game to a whole nother level. But the fact he tried to break it down like that. And he really was a student of the game and loved the game, from that perspective, and was literally maniacal about it. Maybe that's a bad word, but he was obsessed with it. Mm-hmm. And when you described that, it made me think of him, that mentality that he brought to the game. But interesting, I always like asking those questions. The one thing that I did like on your starting five, of course, the modern players. I mean, you can't go wrong with KD. I mean, my gosh, he's 6'11", 7-footer, and you can't stop the guy offensively. But what I did like too is the Shaq. Shaq, in my opinion, a lot of times gets left out of these types of conversations, but the guy was the most dominant human being.
If you move.
Yeah. If you watch basketball during his period,
him and Hakeem Olajuwon would have been
footwork was amazing.
Might have made
for
my
Hakeem.
list, but
Hakeem was great footwork, and there's a lot of guys that we have this conversation. Hakeem's footwork was probably he was a 4 or a 5. You could go either way with him, but his footwork was amazing. Never seen one like it. But Shaq was just so physically dominant. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, especially when he was younger. I mean, he was
dude
unstoppable.
could move,
Orlando,
man.
and then the early LA days. Of course, after he got out of Orlando, they won a couple titles. He and Kobe won a couple titles. Then I think his personality started slipping in there.
Well, he got him on with Miami too.
Yeah.
Him and D Wade when he was
D Wade
young,
was in his prime at that point, but yeah, no, I love the answer. It's always interesting to see people's. I mean, if you pick 5,
it's hard to pick 5.
It's hard to pick 5.
It's hard to pick 5.
But that's why it's fun to just throw it out there. You got a limited amount of time. Give them to me.
Because it's hard to leave guys like Duncan. I mean, I almost would even probably maybe have Dirk on mine. That's how much I
Dirk's a good one
Dirk.
too.
Dirk, I mean, there's so many
7-footer
guys
can shoot the basketball.
Maybe have the most impressive championship the last 20 years, winning that one against the Heat, and he's the only All-Star on the team.
Yeah,
that's
killed it.
Killed
it.
That's impressive, man.
Yeah, they had some really good role players. Jason Terry on that squad. They had some guys that could play. But,
Josh Howard.
Yeah, I mean, they had some guys that could fill roles. Like if you're building a team, that team was built right. Like it had all the pieces, but you may not have known about the guys. Maybe they were kind of up and comers, or guys that were. Jason Terry was kind of maybe on the back end of his career at that point, but played amazing in the finals. I mean, he was stud.
And Jason Kidd came in at a very old age.
Another one,
and did a great job.
One of my favorite players. He's one of my favorite players of all time, Jason Kidd. Of course, I'm a big white chocolate fan. I love me some
Jason Williams.
J. Will was like I had this.
He's a top one to watch. I mean,
but he was one of my favorite players because he didn't. There was no mold for him. He just kind of did things differently.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't even know a lot of guys that play quite like him now. Even I mean, they do right, but he just played with a freedom that I don't know you don't see very often.
And I mean, you get into like the and one and when street
that was right before then. That was late '90s.
Was popular. It influenced a big part of that. And nowadays, kids may not even know what that is. They may not even know what the and one mixtapes are.
I totally remember
that.
That was the end of my career. Then my son was born, and then I just hung him up. But I'll just tell you I love that period of basketball, like the late '90s, early 2000s, and then maybe about 2005. That period was.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it a lot. It was, and then the spacing and then the 3-point line and Steph Curry came along and just exploded. I loved him at Davidson. When watching his run in the NCAA tournament, amazing. But sometimes I think the 3-point line is good, but sometimes I feel like it's ruined the game too. In some ways, it hasn't ruined it. That's kind of extreme, but. I wish it were not all about the 3-point line.
Yeah, no, it can
the mid-range game, and we get into the analytics.
Analytics have changed a ton. That's a very prevalent thing in the NBA.
The guys know, hey, look, these are your spots you shoot from.
Yeah,
these are the areas that you shoot. Here's the percentages. Here's why. They break it down, and then you shoot in an area that's not out of that. I've listened to people talk about it on podcasts.
I mean, I would never go. You never want to go off analytics only, anyways. But I love the fact that stuff because that stuff has created job opportunities for guys that may have never even got in. I mean, we got guys in the NBA currently right now that are analytics guys and different levels now. I mean, we got guys with high school. The Thunder just hired Anthony Slater to come in there and do some stuff with the high school. Like that stuff it's cutting edge. Yeah. But of course, Presti would be the one to get onto that. Sure. And there's some guys that have done it even a little bit before that. But I'm sure Presti would be the one to realize like, let's try to get someone that really knows about all these high school kids because ultimately the rules probably going to change eventually in the next couple years and
it's always evolving. That's the one thing about basketball. It's cool. It's different. It evolves.
It's always going to change.
Yeah, I mean other sports, golf, and the only thing that changes is the technology in terms of the clubs and the balls, but the game itself is like baseball, very much similar to that. But basketball has evolved.
And this is off that subject, but I also wanted to get from you now, because I know you watch a lot of games in Oklahoma. You've seen a ton of these kids. Give me maybe like 5 kids that don't play for team, that aren't going to play for you or they don't play for the Team Griffin. Maybe 5 guys that you just kind of notice like, man, this kid really can play. And maybe you just seen him for the first few time or just maybe a couple kids, that you just kind of jump out to you.
Yeah, one that jumped out to me from watching Tournament of Champions was Jax Kerr.
Yeah.
He's really impressed me with his development a lot. Before he didn't really go inside much, didn't have a ton of inside game.
Yeah.
Watching him in Tournament of Champions, man, I was really impressed with his ability to go inside, his footwork, his physicality.
It's night and day with him. We talked about him on our last one. He was one of the kids. I 100% agree. Yeah. The stuff that he's now doing, because he could always do the pick and pop and work from the outside. Now he's going inside, doing his damage, and then you can come out and hit a shot here and there. But go down there and establish your presence as a shot blocker. Yeah. His footwork is much improved down on the block. So anybody else that just sticks out to you that you've seen?
I really like Keontae Tramble. I think he competes the right way. He competes hard.
Yeah.
He played the right way. I mean, I watched him, I think, 2 games at Tournament of Champions, man. He competed his tail off.
He's definitely
love that, man. Super physical.
Yep.
Played the right way. You could tell just competing to win.
One of those kids also that I was talking about that literally watches basketball games like nonstop. Like that kid, I see him in every gym. He's got nothing to do with the game and he's there watching it. So So student of the game. Yeah. So I definitely will always love to see someone do that.
Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, Keontae, I could sit and talk about him for 30 minutes. I just love the way he plays.
Yeah,
man.
Competes hard, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's a dog, and he's smart too. He knows how to play the point guard position. I mean, very much. I feel like he and Cal are I think that level is really high between both those guys. And, if you have either one of them, you're going to win a lot of basketball games. So
Both of them definitely winners.
You got to hit your
Yeah, I'll hit my and this is another trainer in town. So Nate Logan of Logan Elite Basketball, training out of Destiny Christian High School in Del City, Oklahoma. He provides affordable group and individual training options just like yourself, Trey. Logan Elite Training aims to help basketball players develop their skill sets, basketball IQ, confidence, and ultimately help them become more prepared for their current teams as well as for the next level. Logan Elite currently trains some of the best high school and junior high players, including the number one player in Oklahoma. Visit LoganEliteBasketball.com or message him on Instagram at @NateLogan_Logan Elite for more information on how to get signed up. Shout out to Nate. Does a great job, obviously. Does in the same line of work that you're in, and we'd love to add you to this.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about Nate for a second, too.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think Nate does a great job, man. I've watched him come from afar. We've talked some, but just think there's a great enthusiasm. Love how he approaches the game, teaches details, teaches with kids, works with kids. Till he has a great relationship with them. So, he's definitely a great one for kids to get in the gym with, man.
I think what he just did is a great example of how all of us need to work together, no matter if we're in the same line of work or not. I think that's a great point, is acknowledging each other on what you're doing. And he's doing the same thing you're doing. And I think some people in the basketball world, we talk about this, all of us need to kind of work together to promote these kids and help them. It doesn't matter what team they play for or who they go to train. It could be just because it's convenient for them that, hey, look, they want to go here because it works out, not that they don't like what Trey has to offer, but some people will train with Trey and may not train with Nate. But it's about developing the kids and doing what's best for them. And I think that's really cool that you took a chance to do that. So
well,
I think
like I always say, it doesn't cost you anything to show someone some love.
No,
I mean, that's one of the things
Correct.
that we are big on, and especially, in the basketball world, anything that's competitive will bring that out sometimes to the opposite way, but it don't cost nothing to show some love and say, hey, man, you're doing a great job. Keep doing it. Like, I mean, it helps, especially younger guys. It helps spur them on and want them to keep going and try to get to where maybe you're at or someone else is at. So, definitely.
So it's an example, too.
Absolutely.
Hey, this is how you do things right. So you've done that for a long time, man. I'm glad you came on today. I'm glad. I look forward to seeing what you do and how you guys perform this summer. You guys were big last year, and we'll keep up on social media and be rooting on obviously our Oklahoma players, but you guys in general. I think you're doing great things not only with your training and expanding down to Dallas, which I'm sure that's a great market for basketball. I mean, a huge market, and what you're doing with Buddy and obviously what he's doing in the NBA, and that has a lot to do with the work that you've put in to help him progress, because you need to have people pushing you, and I love watching the stuff that you guys do online and the stuff you put out is pretty cool. So, and thank you. I've said this to you before, but you've helped me out more than I can ever repay you, and I certainly respect you a great deal and love what you're doing. So thank you for what you've done for me and my family and continue to do, because that won't just end. But appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me, man. It love what you guys do as well, man. You guys in it for the kids, help other people,
100%.
Doing things with enthusiasm, man. That's always something I respect. So appreciate you guys having me, man. It was fun.
No doubt. And I mean, if you have anything else you want to say, the floor is yours. If not, we're good,
man. Yeah.
All right. Well,
I feel like I've talked too much.
We'll wrap it up, and man, it's been great. So everybody, if you haven't yet, follow all of our socials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like our Instagram, Twitter, whatever. Follow all of our socials.
It's easy. It's just a click. Everyone, just click it.
Click
subscribe. Check it out.
Thank you, Oklahoma. Appreciate you guys. Peace.
Out.